Good evening. We want to welcome all of you, our viewers, to our 112th edition here in the Issues Room. We've been trying to rectify some, technological issues here tonight. We hopefully going to go through with this broadcast. So we thank you for joining us. It's good to have all of you, our viewers, listeners, wherever you are. We invite you to join us, share the link, uh, share the page, invite someone, love us, like us, follow us. We are the Issues Room, the alternative social media platform with its foundation uh, based in Liberia, but here in the diaspora. When we use the word based in Liberia, the conversation we hold is pertinent mainly to Liberia, but then we cover issues on the continent of Africa and here in the diaspora relating to Black issues. And so we'd like to welcome you, our viewers. Today is December 13th, and it's Tuesday, 2022. I'm Volcano Shelton here with you, welcoming Moses Sandy on the other side of the border out there in Delaware. I say good evening, Moses. Welcome to our 112th edition. We're going to have a great conversation here tonight. I'm very elated with the opportunity to share this studio with two outstanding people who will contribute their own understanding of what we're going to be discussing tonight. But in the meantime, I would say welcome. And after your salutation, we can go into trending news because time is a little far spent.
Definitely, time is fast spent, but like you said, tonight is going to be a very uh, important discussion on Liberia, especially the U.S. Africa uh, Leaders Summit taking place in Washington, D.C. So, like you, I'm happy to be back in the issues room. And let me join you in welcoming all of our many viewers across the globe. Please help us share the link, invite more people. You want to be a part of this discussion, you don't want to miss, because this is the talk that you just cannot afford to miss tonight. Thank you.
So, what's on your end for trending news?
Well, it's a very sad situation. The Liberian president George Manuel Weah is currently in the United States. He and a delegation of senior officials of the Liberian government arrived here almost 2 weeks ago. They are in the country to participate in the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit. And so, as I speak to you, the summit unfolded today, December the 13th. It's going to last up to December the 15th, Washington, D.C. So, right now, as I speak to you, the president is holding a town hall meeting, which was initially uh, uh, described as an opportunity for the president to meet with diaspora Liberians, especially in the Americas and Canada. Now, before I come into this podcast, something very upsetting happened. Many people who follow Facebook and are followers of Mr. Alexander Cummings, followers of the Alternative National Congress (ANC), can easily associate the name Monica Shen with Mr. Cummings. He's an advocate. He's a strong supporter, and Volcano, Mr. Kishen, like any Liberian, made it to DC to be a part of the town hall. According to him, he was asked by supporters of the ruling CDC to leave. He was accused of what? Trying to cause confusion. Moni said when he went to the local hotel where the town hall is being held, supporters of the CDC made him to go through a rigorous screening process. And when he finally entered the hall, there's a die-hard loyalist of the CDC based in the United States, Mr. Michael Gilman, reportedly walked up to him and told him that he could not go live. And when he said, why? He said, oh, well, they did not want him to go live. But he said, hey, this is a public gathering. And then after that, according to Monique, um, the CDC, executives went into caucus, and an announcement was made in the hall that everybody should get out of the hall, leave the hall, and re-enter. When they all went out to re-enter, he was told that he could not be allowed because he did not. I think what he had no permission. There was no permission for him to re-enter the hall. Some of them told him that he's an ANC man. The event is not an ANC event, so there's no need for him to be there. They called the security, and the security guard at the local hotel, painfully told Mr. Kishan, that he had to leave because the facility is a private facility. But now, Volcano, I know time is fast spent. I want us to process this. The event being held tonight is being financed by taxpayers of Liberia. It is reported that the Liberian government put $100,000 into the hosting of this event. And you have some fanatics of Mr. Weah asking another Liberian to step aside. He was uninvited, despite the publicity out there that the town hall meeting today is intended for the president to talk to Liberians in the diaspora. Share your thoughts, Volcano.
I think it's unfortunate for any Liberian to be excluded from an event where the president of the country, who is supposed to be the father of the nation and exposed to every citizen, um, this is something that is truly unfortunate, and it tells us that every time this president maybe try to take a step forward, the people around him bring him backwards by the actions. And we've seen it time and time immemorial since he came to the presidency. But he hasn't taken the kinds of, very serious actions to deter some of these fanatics to the point that they'll understand that, hey, this is not about you. This is not about George Weah. This is about the country. I'm having a town hall irrespective of who everyone is invited. This man did not display any behavior that was
No.
negligence on his part that he wouldn't have had to be there. He went in and as a, podcaster, he
Yeah.
had a right to, videotape
So go
them.
live. Institutions were going live, then what's
Yes,
about him?
yeah. So it's a part of the occasion, but it's unfortunate. Maybe at some point we will hear from Munir himself to give us a little more detail. I know he spoke with you in person, but
Yeah.
again, it's unfortunate how many other opposition, fanatics and partisans who were hoping to go and engage President Weah, maybe asking some questions, were thrown out of the hall. Um, should other political pundits do the same? Fanatics do the same to CDC? No, I think the dialogue should be open, and it should be for our country. And this discussion should center around Liberia and what we hope to achieve by unifying the people. This in itself impedes reconciliation. It shows divisiveness, and it doesn't go well for the image of our country, particularly considering this president is in the U.S. to cement his relationship with the American, government. And considering free speech in this country, free assembly, that is unfortunate. That in itself should be condemned.
It is
Condemned seriously.
condemnable.
Yeah.
It is
So
condemnable. And I hope that the president, the office of the president, will take the corrective actions, because this does not represent the Liberian government well. It just tells us that Liberia is far from peace. If this is how Liberians will treat another Liberian, only because he has a different opinion. He supports a different candidate, not George Weah. That's sad. It's sad. This
Honorable,
is condemnable to the highest degree.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Well, our conversation here tonight, before we delve into it, we want to bring our guests in. So let me go quickly uh, and bring on our guests. Let's start with Mr. Dean Eugene Wilson. Eugene Dean Wilson. I can flip it kind of around. Good evening. Welcome. This is not your first time here. You've been around a little bit on a few of our podcasts in the inception of the issues room. You kind of disappeared from us. We're wondering what happened. And it's good that you're back here because it requires minds like you to discuss the issues pertinent to our country. Good evening, Dean, and welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm just gratified to be in the midst of some fine people. At least all is not lost.
Yeah.
Volcano, your presence and your stride to inform our people and keep them, you know, in the news is quite commendable. Moses, without a question, a
Man,
leader.
you my brother now, man.
But let me just. I'm not going to let this go by. What you just said. I was thinking about it and I shared with someone today is, on Sunday mornings, most neighborhoods are quiet. People are going to church. It's when most families rest. Liberia is like a noisy neighbor on a street block
Do
where
you
a
do you
husband,
do,
where a husband and wife are
do you
fighting.
do
Let
you
me be
want to
honest.
do
Well,
you
well, well,
do you
husband, yes.
do you just want to hold that thought? Let me bring the next guest in so maybe he will chime in with
I wouldn't be
a few.
remiss. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Just hold the thought quick.
Mr.
Let me
Wilson,
just
I
bring our
like that
next guest.
introduction.
Mr. Hassan Kiawu, because he was laughing backstage, and maybe he will want to add to the noise. He's not a noisy neighbor, and I'm sure.
But
Welcome,
I do have noisy neighbors too on Sundays.
Correct.
Okay.
My brother,
uh,
I mean,
no.
Hassan, let me say Hassan Kiawu. I mean, I've heard so much about you, but I haven't heard that you're a nursing neighbor. You're right on that. But I will not get in the way of your introduction anyway.
So yeah, so Hassan is
Yeah,
no
go ahead,
stranger
Hassan.
to the
Introduce
media.
yourself.
He's
Yeah.
been around for a while. He's made a few stops here in the issues room. In fact, he will be back here Friday. We'll be discussing the end of the World Cup from its inception to now and predicting the finals. So the invitation is yours. We'll hope to bring another person with another eye on soccer particularly. But listen, welcome Hassan.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure always to be here and share in my thoughts and everything that I know about the subject matter. But I think we are following. We are going the right way,
Hmm.
and there are a lot we need to discuss. The Africa Summit, and like Dean said, we all need to piggyback on what Moses had just said regarding the meeting that was attended or that is being attended, but
Yeah,
people are excluded, and that is a shame.
it
So,
is.
so
So
for
so
Ken,
let's hear from you.
I beg your
Yeah,
indulgence.
go ahead.
When you arrested on Sunday morning, and even some of us who were quietly resting, having had a long week's work, then there's this noisy husband and wife who's using profanity, cursing and carrying on down the block, and all everyone else is sort of like, oh my God, not again, not again. It's funny, but I would be very direct in saying this, Hassan and Moses and Volcano. What else do we hear that comes out of Liberia? I mean, it's always either it's theft, it's something nonsense. But I'll end on this note for anyone to have the audacity to prevent on these shows the icon of the free world. My only hope is that I wish the brother who was stopped from getting in that conference room will print some leaflets tomorrow and parade all over that conference center. I was stopped. No free press in Liberia. No right to assembly. No right to be a Liberian in the U.S. I wish you could print about 1,000 copies and flood it before a Weah and everyone else on that delegation. Because, and I will say this much to you guys, and I will end on that note: everything that has happened in Liberia, be it the 16 billion, the 25 million, the EPS, the three missing, everything that has happened in Liberia is in the full know of Mr. Weah. And I would just end on that. And you'd be surprised to know he probably knew of it if he was in the hall. He didn't have the gravitas or the leadership to say, hey, stop, don't do that. Let the brother stay. In fact, I'll take a question from you.
Yes.
We don't see that. That is the divisiveness, the nonsense, and the foolishness that we experience that makes us sometimes not proud to be like
Then, Mr. Wilson, quickly, let me just say, at the time they asked Mr. Kishen to leave the hall, then the president had not entered.
Well, it could probably be one of those.
According to Mr. Kishen, some seditians told him that the decision to ask him to leave came from a higher authority.
Well, I wouldn't. Let me just end. Besides, I wouldn't say anything in terms of if you were not present, but I wouldn't put anything past him if you were present as well. And I would just yield to you guys. But thanks for having me again, Volcano. It's a pleasure, man. You guys are growing. You guys are very, very, you seem to be on point in terms of issues. It sort of represents the name that you bear. Thanks for such a great job. And I hope I can enjoy some conversation tonight with you guys.
Definitely.
And you will.
Welcome, sir.
Again, we are a little far spent. Let me lay some ground rules here tonight. I know this conversation is going to be interesting, but I just want us to watch our time on our different gadgets when we, making our points so we don't go too far, in time. But again, I believe that all of us here have done some research on this issue here regarding the African Summit, U.S. African Leaders Summit held here in Washington, D.C. that started today. But what could have predicated this conference or summit? What is the driver for this summit? Prior to this summit, when I heard that this summit was announced, I started to think to myself, but in fact, someone validated my thought. And I'll go to what was written here. It says President Joe Biden has thought tax ahead of him when he convenes African leaders in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, woo them away from China. To woo them away from China, just as I was thinking. And it says here, the 49 leaders invited to the second ever U.S. Africa Leaders Summit have gotten years of infrastructure investment and sweet trade deals from China. While U.S. policy toward Africa has been far less ambitious and akin to what some critics call benign neglect. So it seems as though the continent in its totality was neglected for a while regarding U.S. participation. And so China decided to use up the opportunity and expand herself. So as you can see, many of the countries have gotten deep in this relationship with China, well for investment. Some of the deals have put China presence on the continent, even with toll booth collecting tolls in Sierra Leone, with police station in Djibouti. I mean, they're just vastly everywhere, and Liberia is of no exception. So apparently this awakened the American president to decide that, listen, I think we've abandoned this continent, or we've been lukewarm to this continent instead of the word abandoned. Attention of America was placed in Iraq. Attention of America was placed in Libya. Attention of America in Afghanistan, in Syria. And now here we are with more commitment to the Ukraine. So, gentlemen, I am seeing, and writers and pundits are saying that what necessitated this U.S. Africa summit is predicated on China's presence now in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, and everywhere almost on the continent. There are some sweet deals, trade deals, with those nations in China. There have been millions and billions of dollars put into the economy, into the infrastructure investment in most of the African countries. And so that commitment now from these African leaders makes it very difficult for America to make a run. So the question here, as we begin to hold the conversation, is considering America now trying to play catch up. Any of you guys or collectively, do you think that this summit holds any relevance to most of the African countries, especially how some of them have gone deep in this, investment relationship with China, where that commitment has to be either America, if you really want me to come back, what in it for me? This is about what's in it for me. Because for a long time, there was no relationship. Now you're trying to, what would be the sell-off? Do you think any relevance to it before we start to discuss the different areas of this conference and what, we can dissect that would benefit the continent? But America playing catch up here. Do you think that it would make any difference for many of the countries, not the whole continent, but those countries that are going in deep, like the Zambia, the Zimbabwe, the Djibouti, and so forth?
Well, I
Well,
think let me
go ahead.
take a quick call. America has been one of the country or the country that will support good governance, and also they have all other interests such as security, and of course we know the terrorists in the Islamic Maghreb and that sort of thing. But like you said, the fear of China has infiltrated into some of America's sweetest spots. And so there was a need for America to check a break, especially after a long period of absence. If you do recall, the last one was held in 2014 by President Barack Obama. And then Trump came in, and of course, nothing of that sort. In fact, it's been reported that all over the wires that Trump even muddied the water, with insults and other activities and other stuff. So that has made, so that gray area has made China to infiltrate. For instance, China has a policy where I will give you money, but I won't tell you how you run your government. It's a trade. I'll give you money. However you spend, however you run your government, that's fine with me. But I just want bilateral relationship. I will not meddle into your political affairs. On the contrary, the U.S., I give you my money and I say use it for one
Specific indicators. Yeah.
use it for elections. Don't use it for overhead, or don't use it for other things non-related. And I will monitor how you spend it, and I need a report back to tell me how you spend it, because it's the American people's money. So there they stand. And so China has been winning. For instance, you go to Ethiopia, China built the African Union headquarters. Then you go to Djibouti, you go to Djibouti, China has a base, has a military base there. In fact, China has checkpoints. It's almost like they own a very good chunk of those areas. I was even reading one time, and the people in that country are crying that the Chinese flog them, beat them up, or do all sorts of things without the government reacting because of the trade deal. So all of these, the government has seen that they've left a big vacuum during the time of Trump. So now it's time to play catch up. Now that that particular period was a gray area, and China took that time to infiltrate. Even the European Union too. You see that 90% of African exports go to Europe. So America now is playing catch up, like you said. And look here, if we sit down and a lot of stuff going on, security, food security, governance, all these are happening, and China is just allowing people to go, that sort of thing. That's going to be bad for us. There's also the Russian, the Russian influence too. Not much, about 2-3% of Russian influence, but that also is something that Uncle Sam has been thinking about. And so there was a need to hold this thing so that they can exert their influence where necessary, especially countries that are friendly with Uncle Sam, such as Liberia.
Thank you. But just before any one of you say this, I wanted to say that when Hassan laid the cards on the table regarding, I give you it, I don't meddle into it. That's what African leaders like. That
Yes.
gullibility factor, that corruption factor. Nobody gonna ask me to report back.
No
So I take it,
accountability.
yeah, and we enjoy it now. So imagine how they ran to China and put us in where we are now. But any one of you,
Yeah.
I mean now. I,
I mean,
Yeah. And
I mean,
let me give Dean the opportunity to
I
go
think, I
ahead.
mean, much
Yeah.
everything has been said. Son, you kind of laid it out. I
Yeah.
thought you would have left out the Russian piece you did. But I mean, besides the shithole country, remarks by Trump, and there's been a void. But I think it's just rebooting, part of not just playing catch up, is rebooting the relationship that the US has since Biden came in place. Not only NATO, not only the EU, the UN. I mean, it's just making sure, but to the extent where uh, I think we will benefit a lot. Sanctions haven't hurt. I mean, they haven't helped us at all in terms of companies going, reciprocal trade or investment. We're far away from it. I think in the absence of stability, even before we started to experience bad governance, not much American business was actually floated around in Liberia. Let's be honest. And the last experience hasn't helped. I think one of the things that the U.S. can do for those of us who are much younger than you guys, on the platform, the VOA, you remember the satellite. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
other play things that can be done again, not only Liberia but the region as well. But I think this is all just showboating. It's actually a posture by the US, like they did with the EU, NATO. That absence you mentioned, Hassan, for a very long period under what was not good of an experience for the US in terms of governance with Trump. I think Biden is making his walks and inviting those leaders. The disappointment is that what if we are look forward to wouldn't happen, a one-on-one meeting with Biden. I mean, that would be absent. And I'm still looking forward to the brother, spreading the 10,000 leaflets to to snub this government. So I would stop there. I wouldn't want to go further. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of it, Volcano.
No, but I mean,
You
this is
don't
a
have any
very
expectation.
no.
I don't have any expectation.
Thing I like the way you try to blend it. That's good. This is a very important discussion. I would just like to look at it, from the level of the family. So you are dad, your wife. You pay little no attention to your wife and the children. When you get your paycheck, you go out. You celebrate with your friends. When you come home, there's no food. And then, unfortunately for you, the woman start dating another man. And this man began to pay keen attention to the well-being of your wife and the children. Whenever the kids say this, the man steps up to the place. When the wife said no food, everything is being provided. You the dad, your relevance in the home, what? Begin to diminish.
Yeah.
Even your own kids, when you say, oh, you can't go over, they say, but dad, who are you to tell me that I can do this? Because you have never been there, that vacuum. So I think that what happened over the year, just from listening to you guys, that's what happened over the year. America, over the year, did not really exert its authority. I won't say exert its authority, but did not really play that fatherly role in having a firm grip on Africa. So when China saw that opportunity, they went in to fill the void immediately. That's what today you have an expansion of the influence of China in Africa. But hey, it is still not too late. Like the dad will later realize that, hey, he wasn't stepping up. America said, I am willing to step up and lay the foundation so that we can make this family a workable family. That is what this whole summit is about. These African leaders with officials of the U.S. government have assembled to discuss critical issues, concerning the continent in reference to good governance, democracy, climate change,
Mhm.
youth advocacy,
Food
youth
security,
development, national security. So
food
there's a
security,
lot. There's a
right?
lot that the continent can gain from this summit. I just want us to look at it from that perspective. And let me go back to Volcano. I know he has other pointers, and we can
So,
take it from
so,
there.
so Moses,
Mhm,
good idea. Well,
mhm.
until the father finds a good job to take care of, then of course, uh, he's still run the risk of losing his wife. But
Mhm.
listen here, China has become Africa's number one trading partner through imports of everything,
Yeah.
from
Oh yeah.
textiles to smartphones, while purchasing massive volumes of African agricultural products and commodities, including copper and oil and the rest of it. What China is
Significant influence.
Beijing is building roads and ports across Africa, and this has just happened over the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
While regularly increasing its foreign aid to the continent. And Chinese foreign ministers have made Africa the first foreign destination of each new calendar year since 1991. So imagine, President, what's his name? C, or he got C, right?
I don't even know, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
President
think
C.
China is making
President
an
T.
inroad.
Yeah,
President T. Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
point you're
He
driving. Yeah.
doesn't he doesn't have to come because his foreign ministers have made Africa uh that top new destination. On top of that, China has more potential friends in Africa than the US because its diplomatic outreach has embraced the countries regardless of their respect for democracy or human rights. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah,
So
of
China
Yeah.
course.
got more friends in Africa, whether those countries, like you said, have good human rights record or good democracy, that doesn't matter to
No,
China.
that's it.
And
What
Yeah.
this is a good recipe for African leaders, gentlemen. A good recipe because that's what they want. They don't want accountability. They don't want anybody asking them questions. They just want to run the countries the way they want to run it. So again, we come back to the summit. The key pointers in these deliberations are great, but considering all of the tentacles that America has spread. She's a big octopus and she spread these tentacles out there and dishing money all over in all these different crises, trying to internally sustain us who are here. And that has been a serious problem. There's so many things that we are lacking now in America that we should be enjoying for all the labor we're laboring.
Yeah.
So
I
how do we, I'm coming, how do we cross this bridge? How do we cross this bridge? How really is this summit going to impact many of the African countries that are under bad governance?
I like to uh, remind us, Volcano, that with China's expansionism, and there's a lot of rot that comes with it. They're not the most equitable in terms of trading, and the quality of what the Chinese do,
Yep.
frankly, is not many a times not for nothing. Is economically driven. If you look at China, it's two countries that currently receive most of Liberia's exports: Luxembourg in the EU, I mean, and China. And you will be surprised to know that some of the things are like scrap metal. All of those scrap you see that were taken down from Volcano, other places, the Chinese are there. They're almost there as an incense to loot, if you look at it that way. As much as they're doing this, putting this wool over your eye, many countries in Africa also have signed long standing agreements to manage different infrastructure that they're pulling away from now. China also gets something like ironwood from Liberia, logs, rubber wood. It just reminds me of the OTC when they were in existence. They would scrap, take everything. So it's not too much integrity in what they do. But you were right that sometimes what they gave freely, they built the SKD, they built other places. And I like to just keep it local in terms of our own lenses. But most times they're taken away also. One of the other things is that needs to be considered for Kano and Hassan and Moses is that they're infiltrating other countries with the population in terms of their citizen rate. If you look now in Liberia, you have a lot of Chinese. They're coming in, they're taking away more, they're scrapping your resources. And as we say in the Liberia way, they're coming with all kinds of diddy buy agreements. But they lure you with something and then they get more in return.
Yeah.
But I think Liberia, we still are in a very good place with the US. And I think look at the U.S. speaks and everyone listens in Liberia. Liberia is the U.S. child. I would say that there's no worry for the U.S. when it comes to Liberia because we sleep, get up, sing, rejoice the U.S. When the U.S. speak, everyone is silent. So it's not in comparison to what the other countries are that are more stable. They are thriving economically. So the flip side of that, if they were even giving carrots to those countries, the other leaders that are coming, there are 4 countries that are not here. The military coup take over the Congo, Guinea, and the rest of it. But why they would give more carrots to match maybe what China is giving, um, they don't have to give Liberia anything in return because the credibility isn't there. There's no competition. There's no inducement actually that says, well, if we don't do Liberia right, something else or China will step in or Russia. That's not our situation. As
No.
I said, we breathe, we think, we live, we sleep, we get up. America, in a way, is our meaning God. So it's not a threat to U.S. Relations to Liberia, I think.
Yeah, but I don't want us to
And
just narrow it down to Liberia. This is a vast continent. If most of this continent is under China, then there's a potential for the infiltration. You just talk about the growing population of Chinese across the continent. And
Correct.
who tell you that our borders are tight? Our borders are very porous. And you and I know. Look at the number of people in Liberia right now. They don't constitute our population size. If you extrapolate the foreigners and the outsiders, you will see that our real Liberian population will dwindle, aggressively. And considering our fluke census that is ongoing, we can't even account for ourselves. I just want us to think about it. So there's still uh, a danger here. Moses.
yeah, no, I would say there are a lot of good things that Africa stands. I shouldn't only say Africa, but Africa and the U.S. stand to reap, from this forum. First is to underscore the importance of U.S. Africa relationships. Why the relationship is important: economic growth, human rights, good governance. So, if America is to fund or if we are to collaborate, work in unison as Africans and the Americans supporting us, that hey, we're going to ensure that our democracy in Africa begin to work. Like Dean said earlier, Mali, Guinea, and 2 other African countries. I mean,
Sudan.
Sudan and another African country
Yeah. Burkina
were
Faso.
excluded. Yeah, Burkina Faso were excluded because they had a change in government. They had changes in government that were undemocratic, military takeover. Eritrea did not come because Eritrea has no tie with the U.S. So if our African leaders will come and say, hey, we need to respect our democratic process, we need to be accountable, and let's take that even to our own country. We don't need to sit and allow the United States to impose sanctions on our leaders. We ourselves need to begin to hold our people accountable, provide for our people, ensure that the right to free speech is not encroached upon. The rule of law is adhere to. If Africa begins to do those things, then I would say there's a lot to reap. That would be my, you know,
But let me just add before Hassan comes in.
opinion. Yeah.
Think
Mhm.
about the 4 countries that were excluded as a result of not attending.
Yeah.
They will be influenced by China and say, you see here, this is an opportunity for us to invest with you. And of course, yes, they'll take it. All of us on this room in these studios have a need, and we'll go to who will provide support for our needs. And
Mhm.
I'm just looking at it from that perspective. Rather than uh, keeping them away, maybe they should have brought them in and say, hey, here's the situation. You have to turn to a civilian rule, and here's the timeline. These are the things you will benefit as a government. I'm just thinking out loud.
They were
Yeah, but,
suspended
but,
by the
but
AU,
yeah,
the
but you
African
see,
Union.
yeah, but you see, Volcano, you also have to consider the geopolitical situation with those countries. You may recall that even ECOWAS suspended them. And of course, when ECOWAS suspended them, the United States government supported ECOWAS for the stand they took against those countries for changing government undemocratically. And this is one of the main key aspect of the summit, good governance.
Good governance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do understand that China could use or may use that situation to of exclusion to say, you know what, I don't mind how you run your government. They just need a relationship with you, and that relationship is based on trade and commerce, and that's just about it. Because undemocratically, of course, that also put us on human rights. China already have human rights records, and those military governments, of course, the human rights situations would be very bad. Having said that, though, Uncle Sam had more influence in the world than any other country.
Sure.
So running to China, sometimes China may not be able to save you. And Uncle Sam, America has more alliances than China. Okay, China's alliance will be China's alliance will be a country like, say, maybe Russia, Russia, North Korea, and that sort of thing. Those countries, but not Japan, not even Pakistan, not even what's the name of the country, and then maybe Iran. They go align with Iran, since Iran is already supporting Russia. But in the Eastern Bloc, you find more alliances with the U.S. than any other country. So China may want to use it. However, they will look at the bigger picture. So who do we run to in case something happens? You can't run to China. There are not much relationship there, except for trade and commerce. Who do you run to when something happens? You either run to the U.S. And so the United States government is the only government, of course, is more influential even at the United Nations level. And even at the United Nations level. So you need to hang out with somebody who has more good friends, who have influences in the international community that you can align with than aligning with China or something aligning with Russia.
And let me just add to the voices that I would just hope, on a serious note, that our president, his presence here, how much there was a debate. You remember way back, oh, he wouldn't come, he would come, he would be invited, he wouldn't be invited. I hope he had less than what I would say, a rinsing of the mind that there's some sort of awakening, or an awakening call from this visit in the sense of good governance, cleaning the security sector, getting things right for elections, people feeling better about the government. I think it's an opportunity for our government to reboot. But I think we all do understand that you said it right, Hassan. Uh, the symbolism of the summit in terms of just these countries coming to the US, it says a whole lot. And in many ways, that there's climate change, like you said, even in the release, there was talk about the Ukraine war. So let's keep in mind that the global tactics are still the East versus West, and we all know what happened with. Let's go back in history with the Toba government that government started to go to Romania when they said, we are non-aligned. You saw how how much casualty that government experienced. But I'm hoping that, and I want to be positive in talking to the president. I mean, I know probably, he will find time to just surf. Mr. President, I think it's an opportunity for you to really re-identify what are those expectations that the U.S. wants, and I don't think in any case Liberia will be the last country that the U.S. would be threatened in Africa by China. It's a daughter, son, father, mother relationship, and we know it from that point.
But I don't want you to also stray far from your thought. You remember when President Weah came to power early, there was a visit he made to, I believe, China, and there was talks about mineral swap. Do you remember that?
I do remember the Bowman deal. I remember all of the other deals, but I mean, I would give one experience as well. We've had several gestures from Chinese companies, and it's just one of those things that a U.S. Volcano will look at and say, "I don't want to hear." It almost like you tell your son or your daughter, "I don't want to hear about that anymore." I mean, it's thundering when the U.S. responds. We know that in Liberia through the Political Affairs Office. Look at what happened to the Senate. I mean, I'm just kind of localizing our discussions so that people will understand what happened to a Prince Johnson, what happened to a Vonnie Sherman. Even the second time around with Prince Johnson, when they talk about votes for money or whatever. I'm just saying the U.S. voice is so present, in that country that, we breathe, we live, and everything. So I don't think there's a threat, but we hope that our country can benefit, that this trip is a reminder for our president that you see the serenity here, you see the peace here, you see what is good governance, you see what security means, that going into the new year, we are just prayerful that something good will come that will raise that mind. That's what I'm thinking when I think on the bigger picture. Other countries that have more going for them, you know what I mean, around us, and with more stability, more rule of law, may attract U.S. investors, But I think there will be some carrots here and there, that the Liberian government may benefit from, but not in a very very meaningful way in terms of investments or something that would drain it down to the people. But I think this visit should be a reminder, if anything comes from it, that, hey, this is the space you want to be, Mr. President. I hope you're seeing, you're listening, you're meeting, and people are watching you. That's why I said, Volcano, what happened this evening was a black eye. And I don't agree with Moses that anyone should go and say, oh, we kind of like, we want to fix it again. No, there's no need for that. I hope the president can be contrite in understanding what message he should take from it. Just being on these shores. Yes.
Let me just throw this out here quick. You wanted to say something, Hassan?
Yeah, I just want to talk about but you can go ahead. I just want to talk about.
So I just want us to go to today's session. The African and Diaspora Young Leaders Forum was held. The Civil Society Forum was also held. The African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, that's the Trade Ministerial, was also held. The U.S. Africa Space Forum, the Peace and Security Governance Forum, Partnering for Sustainable Health Cooperation and Conservation, Climate Adaptation, and a Just Energy Transition. So these were some of the key things that were discussed today. But Moses, you talked about President Weah addressing the young leaders. He had the opportunity to speak, I believe, around 8 o'clock.
Yeah, he spoke 8 o'clock this morning.
Was he able to make it there? We got to make it to the office. He can't make it to the office.
But that is an international.
Man,
This is international gathering.
I was in Liberia. The president go to work around 12 o'clock in the day. 1 o'clock, he say he want to traffic to
Well,
go down.
well,
He say,
this
he
and
made it on,
around.
made it on
Yeah,
time. Tell
this
us,
and let's give it
okay.
up. Let's give it over here.
All right. So,
He made it to the forum,
so quickly,
and
what I wanted
yeah,
to say,
yeah, go
this,
ahead.
this is so critical, gentlemen. Young Leaders Forum, Dean Wilson, Hassan Kiawu, all of us here, our time over. Who our country will be left to. So for me, this is a very important forum
Yeah,
for
it
young
is.
leaders.
Yeah,
So let's talk about this quick.
yeah.
And I
So
think
let me
I
just
think
get back.
just
The
2 minutes
Yeah,
on that.
okay, go ahead.
And I think look at the critical needs of our young people. In many cases, the hopelessness, or what we call, and I hate to use this word, those that are challenged, uh, and we shouldn't be calling them Zokos. If we had proper planning, if you're looking at an agenda and you wanted to really heighten the challenges you face, and you talk about our future volcano, you probably can incentivize the visit by having a critical plan that can help. Because keep in mind, the U.S. is present in Liberia, so they see the homelessness, they see the hunger, they see the helplessness, or youths not being employed, rehabilitation.
Joblessness.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be a critical opportunity if you had a dossier to, and you work these rooms when you come to these conferences. I mean, and I just wanted to pivot to what you said. That would be a great opportunity. Listen, we don't want your money, but help us do this, help us do that, and the other. So, but then again, you get that beautiful speech. I know he might have given a beautiful speech this
No, you
morning.
need to hear the story. That's
Yeah,
why I wanted Moses to come in.
yeah,
Oh wow!
Yeah,
the president spoke this morning. He addressed the young people, the youth forum. He spoke on the theme amplifying voices, building partnership that last. That's the topic he spoke on.
Hmm.
And when he spoke, he emphasized uh, how critical the relationship between the U.S. and Africa is, and it is in championing the cause of the continent and also the United States.
Hmm.
Now, as he spoke, one thing that stood out to me was that the question I asked myself: this is a youth forum. It's about giving the young people opportunities.
Hmm.
But when our president spoke, he has been in leadership for over 5 years now, but he did not tell the Americans what his administration has done in championing the cause of young people in Liberia or the disadvantaged youth. Our president did not tell the Americans what his administration has done in changing the current situation, the challenges the young people of Liberia are faced with. What did he do? He decided to reflect on his upbringing as a young man in Liberia when he grew up in Gibraltar and where he found himself. Yes, it is good to know where he came from and where he is today, but I think it would have made a real good case how he told the world, not only American, how he told the world what his administration has done in advancing the cause of the young people in Liberia.
But let
In
me
the
ask
area,
you,
yes, go ahead.
Moses, when he gave that beautiful analogy of where he came from,
Yeah,
maybe symbolically, coming from where he came from, anyone can get to where he is. But
yes.
did he, at any point in that very speech, did he sort of try to connect his success or where he came from to some of the challenges that his country faces, some of the needs that his country, wanted the forum to hear. So
I
it's
didn't
good,
hear him say
to
that.
say, it's good to say that Moses is an educated journalist, or Hassan is a critical thinker, Volcano is very extemporaneous. He's doing all these. I didn't just get here, gentlemen, by just any
Yeah,
luck. I came in
yeah,
the hard way. But please,
absolutely.
I want you to know there are thousands of children in my country who do not have the same opportunity. And what I need help with, sort of connecting in a different way. Did
Yeah,
you finally make that connection in addressing or accentuating
he
the
did
need?
not. He did not. He decided to talk about where he came from and where he is today. So again, like I was saying, the question here is: he has been president for 5 years. We're talking about what advancing the cause of young people. What has he done? What has his administration done? A report on that, a statistics in terms of youth employment in Liberia, the role in the educational sector, you
Rehabilitation.
know,
Right,
rehabilitation,
right.
helping the disadvantaged young people in our country.
That was the
Such
miss. That was
statistics,
the miss. That was the
such
missed
statistics would have
opportunity.
been very
Right.
effective in
That
telling the
answers it.
story of Liberia.
Not
But
only
our
telling it,
president did not
Moses,
do
not
that.
only telling it, but connecting it to the critical needs
Absolutely.
that he needs help with. I think
Yeah, he
that's
did.
how it would have concluded.
He
And
did
people will
not.
see the humility if you brought it to saying that I'm successful,
Yeah.
but there are many in Nikutan, Jalatan, West Point, so those
Mhm.
areas that are in battle. I have challenges with rehabilitation. My youth society is not functioning. I need
Yeah.
help. That was the disconnect, I think, when you asked the question, Vakino.
I think,
And,
Absolutely.
and like, go ahead,
let
Hassan.
me just piggyback on that. And like you said, that was a missed opportunity. When you come to this fora, of course, you come very loaded and very prepared. Yes, you want to give a motivational speech to the young people. It's all good. You can
But
start off. Yeah,
Hassan, some of the young people in the diaspora are even way advanced than you, Mr. Weah. I mean,
yeah,
No, no,
but you see,
but
I mean,
Hassan is
you
saying
want
that
to
at
take,
least tell the
yeah,
people
yeah,
what you're doing.
you want to tell your
the
story.
Gibraltar story not going to change the trajectory. They're coming here because they want to hear how they can help the young people in
Back home.
Africa.
Yes.
To be honest with you,
Yeah, it's true. But you see,
Gibraltar story.
it's good to set the pace. Tell your story, how you started from grass to grace, and then all of that. And then since you came, what have you done? Like Dean said, it's a missed opportunity because you did not sell Liberia's problem, did not sell anything. All
Mhm.
you said was that I went through the hardship and I came up with flying colors, or I'm here. So maybe you two can go through that. But I think the message should have been, okay, I've gone through this, I struggled. And maybe
Right.
had it not been for football, I probably would have attained this. There are many other people who have
Mhm.
not and may never even get to my stage. And these are the steps we are taking to ensure that we bring people up.
But
You
these
know,
are our challenges here, there, and
and
the
these are
other.
our challenges. And once
Right.
you say that, you say we are making an audacious effort to get this done. I managed to go through, but I suffered before going through. You know how I became successful. But there are many people we are trying to do that. We don't have a handle on these, so so these are our challenges. Then you will have somebody say, you know what? Somebody will say, here's my business card. Call me here after. Then you have a blueprint handy. Say, look here, man. I heard your story. It was a wonderful story, and I heard the efforts you're trying to make other people, other George Weahs, the kind of person you are now. How can we help? But if you just praise yourself and tell your story, how the hardships and how now you are enjoying as president, you miss the point.
And Vakino, I wanted to add on to this. Do you know that we sometimes look to the US, but let's keep in mind the remittances we send, Western Union, send Wave, we probably have in this country one of the richest diasporan population here. If strategically to what Hassan had mentioned, if we had a blueprint, that meeting this evening with Eula, with maybe inviting all of the different or states chapters, Eula, the different associations, sit with them and say, listen, guy, this is a Herculean task that I have. You guys are working every day, you're earning. Here is my blueprint on how I can help the so-called Zocos. I can rehabilitate them. This is the budget. I challenge all of you guys, chapter presidents, EULA, to let's put a pool together. I don't want your money. Send your representatives, get some money, and let's do it for your kids who are not like you, don't have the opportunity, are struggling. So that's another missed opportunity. Not necessarily going to the U.S. government, because there is a tact.
But how would they think about that when it's all about CDC, that they're ostracizing opposition, stalwarts? But I don't want us to do. We have a lot of bullets here tonight to cover, and I'm not going to go in the ascending order of the things that were discussed today. But I want to pick the important ones. So we miss an opportunity as a country, as a government, on telling our youth story. The abandoned youth, the wayward youth, the Zogos, the mental health, the drug addiction, all of that, we squander that opportunity. But let's look at conservation, climate adaptation, and a just energy transition. Look at what's happening in our country right now. With all these bogus companies all over the Sapo rainforest, cutting down you are in forestry, you know how much of the corruption that go on when it comes to especially our natural resources. Today, Liberia is a hot mess. The country is so hot, you can barely find trees around. Every tree now they're making coal with Hassan, you know that. The people are even making coconut tree coal.
It's hardship. It's hardship.
What? Coconut tree, oh?
I say,
They use that for gold?
How do we really conserve our forest? How do we really replant our forest? Because all we're doing is deforestation and not reforestation. And to be able to adapt to the climatic change, the hot climate. What education this government is going to bring to this forum? What would have been the conversation around their role in working with the global climate framework?
So, Mr. Volcano, when we've seen real governments function, not even the previous one and this one, but those of us who are much younger than you guys, I'm just being sarcastic. Before these conferences happen, they would take that agenda you have, Volcano, they will look at it, they will dovetail it, they will do proposals, they will send a team, not to the soccer game, but to the US, have coordinating partners. I'm being sarcastic, but I'm being honest.
No, it's not being sarcastic.
You're saying the truth,
You're not being sarcastic at all.
Hassan, when it comes to the conferences, then there's the ripening. You cook the food and it's time to eat it. You know what I mean?
Dean, can you hear me? Just hold.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think you made a point. When this man brought EPS people who running away, absconding, when he brought 50 some more people, who were the experts there?
Yeah.
Who were the experts there, like you said?
What teams came up before the
send a delegation prior to begin the engagement behind the scene and set the tune
with proposals.
Yes. Continue.
Because this is like the chicken soup, the salt, the rice, the meat. That is all the different steps, the different planning. This should have been coming 1 or 2 months before, and then his presence here would have been climaxing and presenting.
And the man started packing his suitcase since September, since August. He was packing his suitcase because he knew.
We have to pray for Liberia, though. we have to.
Hassan, what your thought here before Moses comes in?
I think Dean said it all. Because you see, anytime you go into this forum, and this was announced, the forum was announced since July 26th.
And the man started packing his clothes in August.
When the U.S. ambassador, Michael McCarthy, announced that President Biden had invited, President Weah and other African leaders to the African summit. So this is a forum. Of course, you know that you have not come to the U.S. I want to say U.S. not for the UN, not for the United Nations meeting, but you have not seen President Biden. You have not seen even Donald Trump. Since you were there, You have not come. They have not invited you. And this is our traditional partner, or this is our stepfather, so to speak. And so you haven't come to the U.S. Nothing of that sort has happened. And so there's a perfect opportunity, because most of the meetings you have with Donald Trump and maybe with Joe Biden were on the margins of maybe the United Nations and other things. It's just like, you meet somebody, at the forest. So you are the president. Oh, okay. All right. Nice to meet you.
Okay, it's a pleasure. And
Can we
just
just
walk
take a
by.
picture quick? Can we just take a picture?
yeah,
Because I don't see you. Please,
yeah.
please take a
Photo,
picture with
so
me.
you photo bomb the
Exactly.
man,
Exactly. You do the photo up. Exactly. You do the photo up, and then
and
you
that's
do the
it.
photo up, and then that's it. And even speaking of photo up, I was just reading an article this evening about what some of the African leaders who are so corrupt and who are in Bible with the people that they oppress. So they come to this forum and they will take a lot of pictures and they will pretend, they will use it as a propaganda tool that, look here, you guys are saying that we have this Uncle Sam is against us. Well, look at the picture we've taken. Look at what we've taken. Look at what we've done. And so those are some of the things. But coming back to the topic itself, I'm talking about.
Hassan, you saw the picture with Blinken and also the UN ambassador,
Yeah,
Linda, when he was at the UN, the
yeah.
same photo op, the 1 second, 10 second.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I saw that, So like you said, you need to bring an advance, you need to draw up all the parties that go, because the things are spelled out, like climate adaptation, which you could use in agriculture, and then you have food security, which is agriculture, and the US government has spent millions of dollars in that area of food security, climate adaptation, and sustainable growth, and that sort of thing. So these are some of the things, and all the people you brought. You brought people in health, like the Minister of Health is here. The NIH is having, has a clinical research on Ebola and infectious diseases in Liberia, and the ministry representing the government of Liberia and the U.S. embassy representing the U.S. government. There's more to collaboration in those areas that you could strengthen, trade and commerce, other issues. Put a blueprint together. There are so many things that the Liberia does not have. We do not even have good infrastructure when it comes to health and other welfare activities. So put a blueprint together, send an advanced party long ahead, let them discuss the issues. So by the time you come, it's almost time to post signature. I remember one time the BBC asked the finance minister of Ghana. He said, it asked the foreign minister, well, what does Ghana do that when Ghana comes to a financial meeting, after the financial meeting, they say, hey, when you're going by, just start right there and sign for your check. But Liberia never signs for check. Liberia, they would rather tell you, go, we'll talk, let's stay in touch. But Ghana and other countries, by the time they come, before they leave the room, they say, can you go to the finance officer and just sign for your check. So these are some of the things we need to do. Do prior preparation, long preparation, put all your stuff together. And so by the time you meet the powers that be, especially, this is the greatest country on earth. When you come for the kind of forum, you also come to beg. In simple Liberian, you come to beg.
All right. Sorry, man. I'm hearing some shuffling. If it's in your background, could you run it there quick?
And then,
But let me go to Moses quick, and go ahead, Moses.
yeah, what what you guys have said, it brings us now to the question: what does Liberia stand to benefit?
Do we go there? I don't think we should go there yet, because I want us to
Okay.
hit these bullets. So
Okay.
the next
Yeah,
thing,
go ahead.
the next thing I wanted to draw to our attention here, I believe Hassan is back. The next thing I want to draw to our attention here is another thing that was discussed earlier today between 12:30 and 2:30. So that's a long discussion you can think about: peace, security, and governance. Peace, security, and governance. As it relates to Liberia, right? At least we have some degree of peace, whether superficial peace, but security and governance, there
It's
are other
lacking.
questions. So
It's
I-
lacking.
I'm coming, Dean. I'm
I
coming.
think
Dean, I want Moses to go because he didn't go. in the
Yeah.
first segment.
So
Sure.
Yeah.
I would
So
say in terms
yeah.
of security, we have a significant challenge in that area. Many people who travel to Liberia, many people who follow the happenings in Liberia will agree with me that our national security is in crisis. The failure of Liberians adhere to the rule of law. People go to night, people go to bed at night thinking that someone is going to come and break into their homes. Have you seen the houses in Liberia? The in and out appear like prison. They have iron bar in the house. They have iron bar at the window. Can you imagine when fire break out? You park your vehicle at night. I am told you have to remove the battery and take it indoor. Because if you don't do that the next morning, your battery will be gone. The Liberia that you and I grew up in, we didn't see that. Hassan, you just came from there. Volcano, you go on a regular basis. Dane, you work in that country for a year. Don't you think our national security is in trouble? We have a significant challenge in that area. Yeah.
I think, if you allow me,
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
comes back to the focus and the key thing from this evening is missed opportunities. I think we're going into elections. I would pray God that this coming year we don't have colossal loss of human beings, just the safety of our people. I'm talking about uninvestigated and unended, missing people.
Absolutely. I
God is
agree.
working in a way, Volcano, that, and I'm a believer, no matter what persuasion you have. Some things have been made clear to the Weah government. We've seen some killings. We not, and I'm not throwing no stones at anyone. We pray it will diminish. But then again, the other opportunity that could have evolved, I know there was a sisterly relation with the police department of New Jersey when Chris Massacre worked as police director. I know he got uniforms, and you said it right, Hassan. You're begging. You need flashlights. Police stations don't have lights. Neighborhoods, police don't have batons. They don't have other equipment. Things that they can systemically engage other police departments here, municipality, Jersey, even in the area here. It all would have come in 1 month, 2 months ago. And you don't have to wait for the summit or this one. There are ways when people see that you can identify, do a needs assessment, see what you need, right? They will help you. They may not give you the money, but I think what I'm hearing you say from security, there's, I think the country is at risk, but I think it's been minimized because we don't hear as much losses of life or whatever. But then we have when may be an impending crisis on the 17th.
No,
But
no, no. There's a lot of losses of lives, but they're not the real people. Like a Samuel to have accident, it becomes a global phenomenon. But when they found bodies all around the place, they say the people died, but their family threw them on the street. So
I talked to Hassan before the show.
people are
Hassan,
dying.
Hassan told me if he was Summit 2 at the driver would not have been left at JFK. I think that plane had seat for another person, and he probably should have taken the driver to Turkey, who was involved in that accident with his wife. I mean, just tell you the inhumility. I mean,
Yeah.
just
The
Hassan, I
people
was
don't
just saying
care.
that to you because I see you have a good heart. We are four in a car. Maybe two persons got hurt. You leave two at JFK, and then
Yeah.
you take a flight to Turkey.
Yeah.
These are low things that the low checker marks that people look at and to show that this, you don't care really. I mean, and you don't teach people to care. I think you're right. It's the little people who are passing by. But the point I was making is that it's a heightened phase in our country's existence where we are going to elections. There is the demonstration coming up. And if we keep tweaking this thing to CDC, like what we saw this evening, we keep tweaking it to partisan line, even the demonstration partisan line on a certain people, then it places the greater risk on everyone's safety. I think that's the point I wanted to make. I don't see clarity in that area at all.
Thank you for that part. Just about 2 months ago, the American ambassador Michael McCarthy was on ELBC radio. He was interviewed by Vafli Kamara, one of the most astute talk show hosts and best reporter in Liberia, and he sounded a warning to would-be troublemakers, and he said, "Look here, America is watching this election with keen interests. So people who will cause trouble, partisans or even political leaders, by your utterances or whatever means, you will be held accountable for your actions and your utterances. If you incite people to do anything, you will be held accountable, because we want the elections to go on peacefully." And he even visited the Elections Commission office and told them, "Say, look here, we are watching you with keen interest, the outcome of this election. So we need you to do everything, because the U.S. government, like we said, the U.S. government is pumping in millions of dollars to help out. And always, the U.S. money goes with this slogan, from the American people. And so they need accountability. And the accountability there is use the money wisely, make sure there are no confusion in the process. But meanwhile, the governance issue is a very big problem. We have the have or the have-nots in Liberia. In Liberia, you either have or
you don't.
You're muted. You are muted.
You're muted.
And every day, I speak with people in Liberia. I'm asking people, how is Christmas? They we don't even know whether there's anything called Christmas. Nobody's talking of Christmas, because they are poor. You have more people selling. You have more sellers than buyers. In an economy where you have more sellers than buyers, of course, who's going to buy? But people are spending their meager resources to buy, so that they don't sit home, so that they don't eat it all, in hopes that somebody will come that way. But how many people will come when you have more people selling and you have far less number of people buying? It becomes a difficult situation. So in this kind of situation where they come, the stressing on governance issue, and in governance also comes economics. If you have a good governance structure, everything is going well, of course the economy will boom for the people. Equal distribution of the company resources to the people, and everybody will enjoy. Now, everybody will not be rich, or everybody will not get out of poverty, but at least the vast majority of the people will live above the $1 a day that the World Bank and other people have projected about the country. And then, like you guys all said, security is major. I mean, if the president goes on and says every Liberian must be their own security, that does not speak well of the government. Even the president say, I mean, maybe he meant something else, but from face value, you cannot say every Liberian should be your own. Everybody should have your camera.
CCTV camera.
Yeah, everybody should have their own
CCTV.
Their own CCTV. So that means that you are saying that, look here, we can protect you. It's like the popular say, everybody for yourself, go for all. And
we got an F on that item.
So-
Also, Mr. Volcano, we got an F. No planning, no proposal, nothing offered today on the youth side, on the security side, on the
Nothing.
yeah. Let's go down the list, sir.
So let me quickly run to this, which is critical, since we talked in the onset of this conversation regarding China's role in Africa, and it's all about trade. So part of this summit is an inclusive partnership to advance the agenda for African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, trade ministerial. And the projection here is that this will run up to 2063. None of us probably would be around to see the outcome of it. But the theme for that segment in the forum, or summit rather, that forum in the summit, is modernizing the United States partnership and engagement with sub-Saharan Africa to strengthen trade and investment relations and implement the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. So this is another big deal. This is another big deal. Again, we
we don't
you
we
see,
don't
you see,
Volcano, we don't hear
all these things.
any residual benefits in terms of maybe a 1 or 2 billion tag to it, or that thing to me is sounds more
And
thematic.
a motivator.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the dovetails. I don't.
yeah, and so the projection here, I think, for realization will be 2063. So Hassan was about to say something. Let's hear from him.
Well, I was saying that, okay, when it comes to the sustainable, the agua, and then also the food security issue. I remember in 2003, African leaders met in Maputo, Mozambique, to talk about food security on the continent, and they said that at least every African country should contribute 6% of their GDP to agriculture as a way of strengthening agriculture. USAID had a program in Liberia where, of course, they provided seed, they provided some agricultural assistance. Then they had the IFAD program, the Italian, in a lot of agricultural projects in Liberia. So even the climate adaptation program in agriculture, where, of course, it tells you exactly which area of Liberia can, the climate will affect them, how to grow their food based on the climatic situation in those areas. And then also they had training in Benin, I remember, and they had the satellite at Cari. Every day they printed out some weather report, that would tell you exactly which area is impacted by the weather and which area grows the kind of food is supposed to grow in those localities. So we have missed the boat for the most part, and now you see how we don't even common rice. We're fighting to get rice. By the time there's shortage of food, everybody is crying because we have not taken the steps to ensure that the food security, we make sure that food security issue is where it is taken seriously. You can have alternatives to rice, not necessarily rice. You can have edibles or grow other things, but we don't even do that.
So let me add this in quick. In sub-Saharan Africa, and this is the description of this segment, the agriculture sector provides employment to 2/3 of the region's population and is responsible for 14% of GDP. The sector has the potential to drive broad-based economic growth as women and youth comprise the majority of workers, and the agribusiness is forecast to be worth more than $1 trillion by 2030.
So
Are they just throwing numbers?
if I were then,
Are they just throwing numbers or here?
yeah, but no, this is good numbers. If I were president or minister of agriculture now, and we talked 2 months ago, and we saw that agenda item, and what the brother just said, Hassan, about that existing project by USAID in '03, or then what I would have done, dust it off, attach some numbers to it, and come with some proposal, or even as you said, 14% of the population is agro-driven. Then let's see what proposal you may have that will form cooperatives to plant edibles, sugarcane, rice, other things, but at least that will enhance food security. And that agenda item is telling you, what do you have to show us? What do you need? Even though it's until 2063. So, without proper planning, Volcano, Hassan, and Moses, and you just sit in these offices, and everything is in a void. And I'm just thinking again and thinking on missed opportunities that They want to see something. And let's be clear here: the U.S. traditionally does not give cash to any government. It's an act of Congress. They don't use taxpayers' money. You know what I mean, to fund governments. But you see, you see other American ventures. They will pump the money through those vessels, right? And with a proposal, you can definitely do something in that area, which will help lift, employment, youth involvement. But that you just read talk about women empowerment economically, youth empowerment
Yeah.
economically, driving money in agriculture. Look at your local crops. In our own area, we have fufu, we have cassava, we have yam, we have banana. We probably have one of the best rainforests left on the face
Oh
of
yes,
the
yes,
earth.
yes, we are.
So, what are you inducing, that Liberians are not spectators in their own economy? What are you really bringing to the table? Who's thinking? You should have had think tanks for this meeting, sectoralizing all that agenda item for Kano you have, and have those study groups at all the ministries. Even if you came to Qatar for your game, your son's game, you know, and you have some people working. What are these people doing? That's the
And
noisy labor thing
Let,
I'm
let's
telling
let's take a
you.
quick break. Let's take a quick break, gentlemen, to
You
remind
know,
our audience here. If you just stumble on this conversation, we're in the issues room, our 112th edition. We're covering the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit currently taking place here in the United States in Washington, D.C. specifically. The conference started today. Our president from Liberia, George Weah, addressed the young people, and it was all about his accolades and his struggle. And that's what we've been trying to talk about. But many other things we have been covering. We'd like to welcome you, our viewers, tonight. Pay Edward, Emmanuel Jackson, of course, always here with us. God and Nanted Fillery Moore, Thomas Awaji, of course, L.A. Stevens, Tonia Brooks, thanks for stopping by. It's a pleasure having you in the house. Rachel Harmon, Bennett O'Connor, Victoria Mitchell. Would like to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Continue to share the link. Invite others. We want to see this number growing up. Fergie Monyu, we say thank you too for joining us here tonight. We're going to open the line right now because it's 8:33 as the conversation continues. Hopefully, you know something. You have your own little thought process to put forth. We'd like to have you call. The number to call will be 404-272-2808. Again, 404-272-2808. We have Hassan Kiawu, a Liberian journalist, Mr. Dane Wason, um, a former Liberian government official, former Director General of the Forestry Development Authority, Moses D. Sandy, a career social worker, and a former journalist and former president emeritus of Alja and I Volcano
yes.
Shelton with nothing to say. So let me just go ahead.
And you Volcano chairman, you former chairman of the board of directors of Alja.
So we'd like to welcome all of you, good people. Let's join the
Yeah,
conversation.
but
Call here tonight and contribute.
yeah,
Moses,
but Volcano quickly. I just wanted to piggyback on what Mr. Wilson and Hassan said earlier. Mr. Wilson, you struck a very salient point. If you look at the president's delegation, the Minister of Agriculture is here. The Minister of Defense is
Moses,
also
let me
here.
just put a caller in queue.
Yeah.
The caller from a Minnesota number 4659. Please stay in queue. I'll come right to you after Moses ends his thought. Just stay there. I'll come to you. Go ahead, Moses.
He came along with other, senior officials of government. What did these people come to do? How did they contribute to the speech that he delivered today? We have a problem of what? Food insecurity in Liberia. Did the agriculture ministry give Mr. Weah any suggestion as the way forward? The Minister of Defense, National Security. What suggestion? What proposal did he put forward? He said, hey, go and tell the Americans, these are our concerns. The Minister of Youth and Sports is on this delegation. What did he tell the president? in terms of youth development in Liberia? Hassan, tell me.
No,
Sports.
yes, I know you want. I can
Okay.
keep the call on the line. Let me just bring the
Yeah.
caller in
Go
quick.
ahead.
Caller, your name?
This is Pastor Moore, and I'm
Okay.
calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Good evening to you all. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the discussion. I want to say hi to Mr. Kiawu there in studio. I want to say hi also to Mr. Wilson and to your panelists down here. This is a great topic you guys have on today. And I was not able to watch our president live speech, but it was sent to me, and I think it was about 10 minutes speech, and I was able to listen to it. Unfortunately, he didn't sell our country. He sold himself. Unfortunately, he had to tell the American people about himself, and he didn't do it just the country right. And
Oh, I think oh man, it's so unfortunate that and his line or the call drop, he's gonna come back.
of
But
America, we don't
yeah,
have
go ahead.
any investors from America. No American company is in Liberia. How can we attract them? I also listened to Honorable Wilson, trying to make it good for us, saying, police need flashlight. Mr. Wilson, let me tell you the truth. The government was elected to do the job, and their responsibility is to equip the police. When they are helping the police, international community will come to our aid. We did
Right.
graduate from the stage of going to bed, and we got a bunch of criminals. They're in power, enriching themselves. It hurts me every day. It hurts me every day to see how we got treated our country.
Sorry, Pastor. Sorry. I mean, it's
It
sad.
hurts me every day. It hurts me every day. To see the
Sorry,
rate of
Pastor.
teenage prostitution in our country. It hurts me every day. To see all people go for such a man. You can't sitting there and people are suffering. Can we think that it's okay? It's not okay. It's not okay.
Brother,
It
I'm
hurts me
sorry.
every day. It hurts me every day.
You're not the only one crying.
We got
And
to, Pastor. We got to. We
Someday,
got you, Pastor.
Volcano, the problem
you know,
is,
It's a shame.
then,
Pastor,
let him cry it out a little bit. Let him cry it
You
out.
know, it's so shameful that he's staying before world leaders, African leaders. You're not telling them anything about your accomplishment in the country. You're not telling them what we need in our country. We need so many things. We don't need to hear about your accolade, how you want this, how you want that, how you invest. You don't have no investment in Liberia that you can show off. How are we going to get from where we are? He's not even talking about the situation we have unfolding to elections. We are unable to have even voter registration. We are not even sure whether we're going to have election in 2023. This is where we are. This is where we are. How did we get here, Liberians? How? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. Take faith.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Volcano,
Pastor.
Volcano, let me just add.
Dean, let's suck it in a little bit because my eyes are wet right now. Let's just suck it in for 10 seconds. Let's just suck it in. This is what we call what they call it, what is it called, a moment of silence.
Yeah, it
Sometimes
is.
you gotta
Yeah.
suck it in.
I mean,
Now
it's
Dean,
painful.
yeah,
It's
you
painful.
can come in, Dean. I just wanted to suck it in because I
Go ahead,
wanted
man.
We just pray that I would say to this that I bet you everything my life to what this cry was, and we hope it can turn to cries of joy. I bet you, Thomas. I mean, I bet you, Kiawu, I bet you, Volcano, and to you, Moses. If we get a good leader in Liberia, it would take 1 year. Liberians are followers. In 1 year time, we'll turn our country around. And what is hurtful, or what the pastor did was, the only thing we hear from that country is some money stolen. It's almost like you got a octopus to just steal. Without the remittances that we send to that country, how would these people eat Christmas time? I mean, how would they live? Those were hard tears, but I think I'm
But
hopeful.
Dean, what you just said, this weekend I had to work 32 hours just on the weekend. 16 hours Saturday, 16 hours Sunday, because I know that in the coming days,
I send money to Liberia.
my phone will not rest. Because my personal paycheck can't even sustain myself. Needless to say that I have to put the extra in because of the situation we're talking about. And all of us in this room, our phone gonna ring. So the remittances will have to go to Liberia.
I mean, you say gonna ring? Mine started ringing a long time ago. My Christmas on you.
And this is serious matter. And this is not just
No,
your
this is
family.
very serious. It's not laughable. It's very
These are your
serious.
friends. These are your acquaintances. Some people want to see your number on Facebook, or I mean your contact, and they start calling you by messenger, asking for $10. So this is a serious problem, and you got these. And Lord, I take the word back because thank God it didn't come up. But you got these people say they're legislators and senators, and they're all for themselves. But man, we in serious mess, man. We in serious mess. Like Moses said, George, we got to go. Count 2023. George, we got to go. This opportunity he squandered just to be in America, just to say I went to America so he can go ahead and resume. You come to that's what I'm saying. Those young people you're talking to, they're not ignoramus. These
But
are
you see, but no. I have a problem with you for what you're saying, Volcano. For those guys, and there are many and plentiful in the Philadelphia area, Kiawu, and in the Delaware Valley, to have the audacity and the fortitude on this American soil, where there are freedoms, for that brother to be denied from going in there.
yeah.
These goons, you call them goons.
They're not private party.
Yeah, these goons that come here,
Open it to the Liberian diaspora.
These goons that come here and have the God-given blessing to be in the greatest country in the world, and they represent thuggishness and foolishness. You know what I mean? And then you got a clueless bunch of fools who come in, say they're government officials and whatever. And then you have people that live among us that embellish these ideas and represent these things and act this way. And all you hear, so for anyone to have that common thinking to say they are supporting what we are seeing with our eyes, then the saying is, it's not those that do wrong, it's those who stand on the side and allow wrong. That is, we need to start saying to our people in Liberia, if we're sending these remittances, where if let's start talking about anything other than this mess we find ourselves in. Maybe put some caveat to it.
So we have about 60 minutes to go. We intend to end this conversation at 9 o'clock. Moses was about to jump to that, but I'll bring it out here quick so that we can begin to ponder it. What actually, as a result of this, and we've, written on the wall, we've made it explicit as to the missed opportunities, but irrespective of all of what we've analyzed here tonight, what does Liberia stand to benefit as the result of this summit? Particularly where the country is and where the country is projected to be come 2023, when we have a national elections. Right now, we can see the stiffness in the country. This December 17, projected rally or protest, however you want to term it, by Louis Brown heading this with tire suffering, and some of the opposition are not supporting the idea. It just seems that everybody is in their own lane. There's no togetherness and no common theme around peace, security, and good governance. So people, I don't know. So what does Liberia stand to benefit with everything happening back home, and what the president so far has not demonstrated in his first opportunity to make his case.
Let me take a shot at it. Mr. Weah, I know at some point there will be followers of yours who watch the issue room. If the 48 days you've taken recess on job, which we never get to do in America, the time you've taken, we pray tonight from what that pastor was crying. Rome is burning. Mr. President, we pray that your presence in this country, when you go to bed at night, when you sleep, may God awaken in you some clarity of your eyes to see the plight of your people. We pray with you for our country's sake. Nobody here hates you. Nobody here, with God as our provider, for our country to do well, you are the leader of our country. But the only thing I think we can get out of this, I'm really thinking here that the absence from the country has been therapeutic. You're a social worker.
You mean for him?
For him.
Oh yeah.
He's had time to rest.
Yeah, take time off all the stress.
Excuse me, to detox. He has time to deal with, to take out the trauma.
Getting $2,000 a day.
Well, I'm not
$2.5 million.
Okay, no, I'm
asking
serious
for
about
more money.
just the absence from that country, that dark country. I know you've seen the how it looks, the plight, the trauma, the hard work, the this. I hope you've had enough rest. We pray that God, when you get back, will start. People will start saying, "Oh, you hear your man? Oh, look at that man! Oh, that man doing this! Oh, surprise us a little bit, George Weah."
Because
surprise us a little bit.
He's returning on Sunday, so
let him get there, and I know he stopped dancing Zoko now, making music. Let him surprise us a little bit. We want his presence felt. You know what I mean, right? We want this rest period you had to really revamp you, resuscitate you. And maybe when you do well, I want to be positive. Lights are coming from the Ivory Coast. You know, where there's light, there's security. You still got a chance to, if you're serious, like we're about to take that test. The whole semester you haven't done your work. You know what I mean? Volcano, and you know you got to take that test to graduate. You know, I mean, re-election is a graduation for you. We hope that you can study, and let's start surprising us a little bit.
And just before you come in, Hassan and Moses, quick, you mentioned light coming from the Ivory Coast, but if the infrastructure is dilapidated, is not in place to accommodate lights, then what is it? What good is the light? We have the country, the street lights are not functioning. A lot of them are, damaged. We don't have traffic lights in the country. To my memory, it's only 4 traffic lights whose work on and off in the entire Monrovia and its environs. The one there at Nigeria House. The one at
Volcano.
Let me say it quick, Dean. Hold on. The one at Vamoma House, the one at 20th Street. And is there another one on Randall Street? Randall and Bro? The one from Tottenham Town?
Yeah, sir. Maybe Hassan will help you with that.
Yeah, that's it. One at Freeport.
You're laughing. I hope this trip will climax in a sober reflection for our president, that he will start to wow us and do things different. And I will end on that note.
Come in, Hassan.
Yeah, well, I think like Dean said, we are hoping that this forum will provide the opportunity for us to sell Liberia. We know already there is growing fear among officials of the new batch of sanctions. We understand should be coming soon. We don't know when that will happen, but sanctions or no sanctions, like Dean said, let the president, say, wow, at least he's come back and he has done some of these things, and so so let the Liberian people for once say, you know what, this guy went over there, he rested so well and so enough. Yes, he took our money, but look at what he's coming with. Correct. Packages of development, packages that will make Liberians smile again, because we haven't smiled for a very long time, a very, very long time. And the fact that this president came at the back of youth development and a youthful person, liked by um, 14 out of 15 counties, so to speak. And now you can put that number to the name anymore, evidenced by the previous by-elections and other elections that have taken place, and you can see that. So, and some of the hardships that are going on, the hardships of hardship, so to speak. So, I think what he needs to do, especially now going back, is to have a renewed vigor, renewed commitment
Correct.
that says, you know what, I've done all of this. Okay, yet Liberian people, I'm not getting to them. Sit down and have a Superman. I'm hoping that during this break, he sat down and thought about all of those things that people accuse him of. Some may be correct, most will be correct, some may not be, but think it through yourself. You say, you know what? A lot of people are crying, and where there is smoke, there's fire. So let me come back this time around and do the Liberian people's work. And I'm sure when you're driving, when you are being, even though your convoy is speeding over the place, you can see people in desperation. People are destitute. You can see it in their faces. You can see people walking. I went to Liberia. People are walking in and they're talking to themselves as if they are on. Sometimes the first time I saw people doing that, I thought they had a Bluetooth in their ears. I'm looking around. I'm looking at this guy. No Bluetooth. He has walked so long from around Bushel Island, went downtown Monrovia because no car pay, and walked by empty-handed. So I'm at the supermarket. I think the Stop and Shop or the one at Full Junction, and I'm there, and this guy is talking to himself, and I'm looking at the guy. Oh, this guy, is he crazy?
That's what
He's
we
not
call.
crazy. And the guy
That's
complained. The guy said, "Okay, man, in the country, I look at me, be man. I walk. I went all the way in town. I walk back. Now I go in. What the children will say, Papa, now come." I mean, I felt sorry for the guy. I had to get the guy $5. I said, man, look here, man. Yeah, $5 to you. He said, my brother, thank you. God bless you. I have not seen the $5 in almost 5 days. I just walked to one of my friends. He promised me something, and I walked, but I didn't see the guy. So his hope is dashed. How do you rekindle the hopes of that kind of person? Who walks miles to go to town, hoping to find somebody, and miles to come back, they didn't get anybody. How do you report? It's like your kids send you to go out. You come back with a report card. Papa, what is the report card? What did you bring? Papa, now come. Then Papa entered his room, crying, seeing all his kids' faces. Nobody has eaten yet because they were waiting for Papa to bring something before they get pot on the fire.
It is.
So you see,
Yeah, from Moses.
the pastor, the pastor crying. I mean,
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
What does Liberia stand to benefit?
Well, I would say objectively, Mr. Weah failed to make the case for Liberia. He let Liberia down again. For this trip, from what we're reading in the media, this trip and other places you went to cost Liberia almost $2 million. And he came to this country. He been here for the past 2 weeks.
Almost $3 million, not two. 2.5,
Okay.
and then ask for additional money.
Yeah. He been here almost 2 weeks. He could not make the case for the young people of Liberia. He could not make the case
Do
for
we know,
national
quickly before
security.
as you continue, do we know if he has another opportunity to address any of these forums?
Well,
Maybe,
I think the chances are slim.
well, he still has tomorrow, and he
The
still has
chances are slim
tomorrow
for
and
any
Thursday.
one-on-one. Yeah, okay, yeah. But for today, he failed to make the case for the country, which is very critical. And I can tell you that to a greater extent, this trip is a waste of the taxpayers' money. Let me give you a typical example. You, Hassan, Volcano, myself, we are media gurus. Do you bring the Director General LBS, the Deputy for Broadcasting, the Deputy for Rural Broadcasting to come and cover the president here? What do you bring? Don't you bring your reporters from the news department and save all that money? You bring the Deputy Minister for Technical Services at the Ministry of Information, and you lead the Minister of Information in Liberia? Are you serious? This man is Deputy Minister for Technical Services. Waka Fofana. Is he that he's the one that will be telling Liberia's story? And you lead your official spokesman?
Moses, I have a different view on the Baka Fofana issue.
Yes.
Baka Fofana, I would say, is also relevant, or he's relevant too.
Okay.
And you know, if you look at the government's information service, Baka Fofana is by far one of the most prolific, most relevant, most active PR person in that government.
But then Hassan,
yeah, come in. So you see, yeah, I mean, I may not agree with him 100%, but if I were to become a president, he's one person I would bring into my corner. The level of commitment, and he does these. So bringing him, I don't think it's a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake because he does the bulk of the work.
Yeah, Hassan, let me just say this quickly. And this is where, again, and Mr. Wilson and Volcano, I want you guys to bear me out on this. This is where leadership comes in. If I hire Legend who Rennie as my Minister of Information, and I see a deputy minister who is performing better than, quote unquote, than Mr. Rennie, I will ask Mr. Rennie to step aside. I cannot afford to pay you as Minister of Information when you are not stepping up to the place. I will hire someone who has the ability to do the job. So from what I'm hearing from you is Fofana is stepping up to the plate more than Mr. Rennie. Then the president should give Mr. Rennie the door to take the exit. But I'm saying it is a waste of state money when you have a spokesman in the country and you bring someone beneath him to represent the government. It's a waste of resources. The folks from LBS, what are they doing here?
Watch your time. Watch your time.
Eh? The Director General, the Deputy for Broadcasting, the Deputy for Rural Broadcasting, what are they doing? Stay in the hotel? And do what? Eh?
Where is the Jassy Burfi? Where is the Steve Makundu Tep?
All these people, all these top reporters you have in Liberia,
I'm coming.
Moses and Volcano, you guys.
Olivia Shana was not coming. Alhaji GV Kroman was not coming.
It's not fair to these people, Volcano, because what you wanted to report fake news.
No. If you broaden it to report the event, yeah.
No, I mean, I'm coming now. I'm coming.
You gotta be credible now.
There are the foot soldiers in the front line. These are the guys who wake up out of their bed to run the radio station.
Yeah.
To stay up hours to keep the radio station afloat. To produce. I don't know what we're talking about here. But when the Director General and two deputies and leave the reporters like the Vafi Kamara, you said his name is what? Vafi Kamara?
Vafi Kamara.
No, Vafi Kamara.
A very young man,
So
the most young man.
So you leave the person who, and let me be honest with you. Do you know who is the face of CNN? It's not the Director General or the CEO president.
No.
The face of CNN is the analyst Cooper, the Aaron Burner, all these people are
the top reporters, news anchors,
leave, and come with with government officials and getting
So
heavy.
I caution your journalists you're talking about to take all the picture of the XO, the VSOP, and all of the other things that will
Yeah.
come tonight.
But
And you
I
know,
know Moses, you wanted to
On a
throw this
serious,
yeah,
out
so
there.
I don't
quickly,
think you
so,
have
so
anything.
quickly, let
Let's
me
wrap
just
up quick.
wrap it.
Yeah,
And
because I
just, let
got to
me
move
just
on.
wrap it by
Nothing
saying
serious.
that
There's nothing serious they have to report.
let
I
me
mean,
wrap it
Of
by
course.
saying that the president did not make the case on day one. He's not going to make the case on day two. And lastly, let me say what his CDC people did today has further dampened the image of his government to deny Mr. Kishen the opportunity of being at that town hall. It tells you how divisive the CDC is. And this is not the kind of Liberia that we want. That's why I and many other people strongly believe that Mr. Weah must be a one-term president. I'd like to wrap it like that.
All right, guys. Quickly before we close this, let me say that what Liberia stands to benefit will, for me, in my opinion, will relate to the collective understanding of the citizenry of our country, uh, to understand what America's intent is for Liberia, and to hold those indigenous looters I was referred to by one of our guests here on the show accountable. When people are still running the streets in Monrovia and its suburb and the counties and fighting to make a Nathaniel McGill a senator, a man with stained character who has not uh, exonerated himself from the sanctioned charges. His other two colleagues are silent. I don't know if they're doing something behind the scene, but he's the one so out there. And the Liberian people are divided. Then Liberia stands to benefit nothing. Our citizens must be collective in one accord to save our country. If we continue to be splintered on national issues and we only see it from a political standpoint, the CDC and the rest of the country, or the opposition and the rest of the country, and we're not in one accord, everything that would be uh, put together at this summit, with Liberia being a participant and expected to implement, is not going to happen. It starts with the citizen and civil society. It starts with the integrity institution collectively seeing the bigger picture of what America intent is to ensure good governance, peace, security, growth in health, growth in education, growth in developing our young people, growth in employment, and all of those things. So it then fall back on we, the Liberian people, and the citizenry. That is how I want to look at it, because it would be a waste on water. I mean, a waste on water, wasting
Back.
water on duck back to say
Mhm.
if the citizens do not buy in collectively,
Okay.
because we're surely divided on everything in that country. Here in the diaspora, you can see how divided we are. Needless to say, on the grounds, and especially when you look at the illiteracy rate in the country, that plays a major role with regards to how people will interpret America's intent, because they right now see America as a meddling in Liberia's business, while they will say they're putting sanction on our government official that the one we elect, the man still will carry the man in the Senate and blah blah blah. Look at
But
that.
Volcano, is interesting you're saying that, Volcano,
Yeah,
real quick,
yeah.
because even the ambassador re-echo what you're saying. The
Mhm.
ambassador said we can only do but so much with sanctions, but
Yeah.
Liberians have to look at themselves in the mirror and do something through the ballot box. So I think, and let me just end. I appreciate you guys getting me on. For any
Okay.
egotistical, selfish reasons, whatever, I want to just be very clear. Instead of this partisan divide, Liberty Party, if you and I just don't care who the messenger is. If the voices on the 17th of December is what needs to be heard, maybe it will be a welcoming soberness again for our president. Let the people get and say we are tired of suffering. That $5 story that Kel will talk about, the remittances we're sending. Sometimes we gotta void ourselves, volcano of if it's not Unity Party, it's not Liberty Party, it's not this party, that party, then guess what? And we have precedents that when June 6th came, bring our money back. This is I think the approach is to the citizenry. If you think, and I just stand on the side of let the people voices be heard, let the space, the political space, go on. We just pray for our people these holidays. Man, I love you guys, man. Moses and Volcano, man. Hassan, it's a pleasure meeting you. And again, let's remember that pastor, it was just heartthrobbing. They cry, you know.
It was sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
touching,
Thank you,
you know,
Mr. Wilson.
and let me end on this note that
Hey man,
you
it's
know,
hard to go when you put people who let talking together.
Wow,
You end
son,
up
go
It's
with,
ahead.
more people.
listen,
Anyway,
listen,
it's more
listen. Now
people.
the man ended on one note first. So now he made a whole new music. He won't end on a new note. Let go.
That is
Go
that's
ahead,
the
son.
recipe. That's the recipe for a good show.
yeah,
A very good
Yeah,
show.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
anyway,
was.
Go
It
ahead.
was a
Go ahead.
pleasure having you
End on
guys.
a new
Yeah.
note. The new note.
Anyway, let me
The new
end.
note.
Let me end on a new
Okay.
on a new note. Let me thank you guys so kindly for inviting me and Dean for sharing the stage with Dean. I think he brings a lot to the discussion, and I think we hammered home a lot. We didn't cover all in much detail.
But we look at the key areas
Yeah, we look at
that
the
were
key issues.
relatable to Liberia.
Yeah, sure. We look at key issues and we localize those issues. And I'm hoping that the missed opportunity today will not be missed tomorrow and even in the coming days. And that Mr. Weah has rested enough, and I'm hope he's going back with some prints and saying, you know what, people are crying. Let's listen to the people. The leaders listen more than they talk, and not knocking off from somebody's mouth when somebody's talking. Say, "Oh man, shut up! You don't see stuff." Listen more. They may not be saying everything right, but even when somebody don't saying nonsense, you can take the sense out of the nonsense. And
And let's
Thank
wow,
you.
wow us. Let's say
yeah,
wow.
exactly. Wow, I say, wow.
Wow. I
Yeah,
like that, Mr.
wow,
Wilson.
Papa now come.
For buying the house, eh?
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
guys, it
Any of
was a
you stumble?
pleasure.
Yeah, just before you guys go, did any of you stumble on something today? There was a news stuff I saw that said we are names diaspora pricing. Did any of you see that?
No,
No.
I did not.
All right, and I was trying. It was just a caption, but I didn't see whether he was named or whether he named somebody. So I would look further
Yeah,
because
we'll
it's
kind of
something
check.
that
Yeah,
caught my eye. We are names diaspora person. So I'd like
present.
to
Okay.
know who is the diaspora person that was named, or whether the people named him diaspora person.
They gave the Eula people the 300,000 now. I thought we
No,
were supposed to be raising money and sending
no,
it. Okay.
it was
Maybe.
just a promise by
Wow.
my girl. Yeah,
These
not a
Yeah.
dime. Yula
No,
has
but
received.
just the thought that you would take money from that place and bring it anyway.
You
But
take money from Liberia, bring it to America.
no, man. Yeah. I
Oh,
think
man,
I
I
think
do.
I think Volcano, you need to find a ship, take about 50,000 of us from here, carry them to
We'll go ahead and
Liberia,
take the money
then
and
bring
bring
the
it
other
back here.
50,000 here. The ones who catching hard time, and they will start getting serious. You know what I mean? The people
Yeah,
here sometimes we tend to be too useless, and we're not. Yeah, it's horrible. Even our leaders, you know,
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
sad.
yeah. So Volcano,
Yeah,
All right,
we'll take
guys.
it from there.
yeah, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
thought it
man.
was good conversation.
Guys,
Dean
happy
was nice.
holidays. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
wish you
on
the
pressing
same,
on.
Mr. Wilson
Yeah,
Hassan.
yeah,
It was a
and
pleasure.
Volcano, you didn't tell the people what we're going to do on Friday as a reminder.
I did in the beginning, so I'm going to reiterate. So Friday we'll be discussing the World Cup from its inception to where we are. On Tuesday tomorrow, I mean Wednesday tomorrow, we'll know the two teams that will go to the final, and then we'll predict the winner. So we'll be discussing the World Cup on Friday. Next Tuesday we'll have another good show, and then on Friday of next week we'll be inviting the president and probably the board chairman of the Atlanta Association, Liberian Association in Atlanta, Georgia, to be our in studio guest to discuss that Liberian organization out there in Georgia. We've covered some of the other Liberian organizations here around the East Coast. So we thought to stretch out to Hassan's, you know, that's where Hassan is from.
That's my
I shared
base.
that space with him for 7.5 years. So we just want to know what's happening in Atlanta. So we'll be bringing that group out here on next Friday. Tuesday we'll finalize and then we'll have the promo ready. I will not let it out of the bag, Moses, because
No, no.
into that.
No,
We'll
yeah,
just keep it private. But it will
yeah.
be a good conversation on Tuesday if our in studio guest comes through. Um, it will be unprecedented. Someone who I really have not heard on any of the platforms here in the States. So it will be a great booster for us. So we're hoping that that takes place. But again, Friday, please join us here so we can discuss the World Cup. The last show we had, there were a lot of callers, sports enthusiasts, those who follow the game. So let's talk about it Friday and then make a good prediction. I know who's going to win the World Cup. The pastor who are crying, he and my separate of God the same way, and God told me who will win the World Cup. So I will make my prediction. But gentlemen, thank you so much to every one of you who came here tonight in studios, those of you who shared the broadcast, those of you who will watch. We say thank you. Continue to follow, love, and like the Issues Room. We are the alternative on social media, emanating all of Liberia, discussing the things that matter to our country, to the continent of Africa, and the diaspora. Volcano, Shelton, Moses, Sandy, Hassan, Kiawu, and Dean Wilson. Good night to all of you. We say thank you. Thank you. We'll be back here Friday. Have a good
Thank you.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.